Okay, students, I am ready to make the epoxy pour for both the cutting board and a top to our mini cedar chest. See how it's been routed on 3 edges? So I'm going to pour both of them and experiment a little bit. Maybe try to make them kind of the same, but you know, colors run and stuff, so even though they're similar, they won't be exactly the same. These are one of a kind. All right, so here we go. I've got about 3 ounces of each part of the 2-part epoxy. We have to have exactly equal amounts for it to harden, so I've done that. I've got my paper down. If you're doing this at a table, I need you to have paper underneath. We don't want any of this on our table. It'll make a real mess. You wouldn't want to get any on you either. It is toxic, so don't want it on your skin, don't want it on your clothes, can't get it out. So if you remember our process here, people, we have to start with equal amounts. Then we combined those equal amounts into 1 cup. And they don't recommend making over 6 ounces at a time because it becomes harder to stir it thoroughly the more that you get. So 6 ounces is max. So I'm trying to get all of the 3 ounces out of this one into the 3 ounces of the first cup. Because if I don't get it all out, then they're not equal parts, and then I have a good chance of it ruining my project and not hardening. I've said it before, it becomes the consistency of like a thick honey, and you can't get it off your board, you can't sand it, it just gums everything up, and the only thing that you can do basically is pitch it and start that part over again, because, you know, it wouldn't ever harden. It would be a gooey, sticky mess, and you know, you can't have that in a project of any kind. All right, so I'm getting my last bit out. It takes some patience. You can't rush it. Haste makes waste, right? You've heard that before? Well, we don't want to make waste here, because that means we got to make the top over again and the cutting board over again. That wouldn't be any fun at all. All right, so I've got as much out of there as I can. So I'm going to set that cup aside. That's trash. And I am going to start stirring, and this time I'm going to use my phone. We need 2 minutes. So let's put a stopwatch on it. Here we go. You can see it, 6 ounces pretty much fills a cup. Okay. As this epoxy gets older, it does yellow, which changes your color. Especially in the translucent, it makes it darker. So unfortunately, I ordered 2 more of those, thinking that I would have a bunch of students in this semester. Well, due to COVID, they're not here, so we're not using this stuff up. So it's going to probably be a dark yellow by the time we use it up. It'll still work, it still hardens. It just will be a little darker colors than what we might want. So I'm scraping the edge, scraping the bottom. I'm going back and forth, 90 degrees one way, 90 degrees the other. Then I'm going round and round. You don't want to go real fast, because that just introduces air into your epoxy, and we don't need air in the epoxy. That creates bubbles. Be nice if my phone stayed on, wouldn't it, so I could see where we're at. Come on now, cooperate. There's a minute and a half. Okay, So I was told by the company 2 minutes. Okay, that's minimum, and you probably don't want to go way over that because it starts setting up on you, and you know, go off of the experts' instructions is probably the best thing to do. All right, so there's 157, 58, 59, and I had a few seconds messing with my phone where I didn't stir. Looks pretty blended, doesn't it? So from here, if you remember, we have to go into the next cup. This helps it get thoroughly mixed. It's a very important step to go from our mixed cup, where the two parts were mixed, into a third cup. And once I get it all out of my original cup, then I pitch it and the stick, and I stir with the new stick. So that is a part of the process they recommended as well. And since we've been following their instruction, we have not failed many times. Usually when we do have a project that didn't harden, it's due to us rushing, not, you know, and doing something wrong, like probably more than anything, not getting the parts exactly equal, or 50% each, one more than the other, and then you're sunk. It won't harden. It doesn't help to put more hardener in it. It's got to be 50-50. All right, so we're taking our time. We're getting it off of the bottom, getting it out of the cup best we can. These sticks are kind of flimsy, which doesn't help matters. All right, that's about all the patience I have. There's still some in there. That ought to work. So that's trash. New stick. Wow, look at that one. That's warped. Okay, now we're going for a minute before we add color. So I'm going to pause, I'm going to reset, and I'm going to start. We are now stirring for another minute. We add our color, and we'll do our pour. Notice I got my tape. Guys, that's a critical step. If you don't have your tape done correctly, it'll run right out of the corners or underneath it and off your board and make a huge mess, and then you may not have enough epoxy either in your project. It'll sink where you want it to be raised so we could sand it smooth, right? And level. So the taping is critical. You might notice that I taped it down, I lifted the inside edge, and I pushed down the outside edge so it can't run underneath it, right? And then the next piece overlaps it, so it creates a corner where it's got a good seal. I've done that on both. All right, so we're stirring for a minute, and then I'm going to divide it up into the other two cups. We'll have 3 colors, so we need a color for each cup, don't we? I'm thinking we'll go with just a little bit of black, and I'm going to put the black around his eye and nose on each board, and then I'm going to go with Wyandotte colors of translucent red and opaque white, and maybe even a little bit of silver flake, bulldog flake. I've never used that big a flake before, so it's an experiment. That's surely a minute. Come on, phone, help us. Yep, that was plenty. Okay, I'm gonna make room for my colors here. So we said we just needed a little bit of black. That should be plenty. Okay, then we're going with some white and some red. So I would like them to be about equal parts. Nice to have graduated cups where we can see when we're equal. Let's see, I might go with a little bit less white and more red, okay? So I think that's gonna work for us. All right, so I need a stir stick in each one. And let's mix in our color. Very little black, 10% of the volume of, and I messed that up. I shouldn't have put the sticks in so I could scoop out paint. 10% of the volume for the color. We don't want to go more than 10% or it may not harden, okay? All right, so there's the black. Wonder if I could do the white next. This is why we use a paper underneath, right? It's starting to get a little messy. Let's go with the white. That black was about dried up, wasn't much in there. Okay, I'm gonna go with the white now. That looks much better. Okay, that ought to be plenty. Take my stick and wipe that off. Okay, get rid of that stick, and then I'm ready for my translucent red. And I want it to be red and not pink, right? So I'm going to put a good amount in there. It's concentrated.